Okay.
Hi. Now, no, this is February 23rd, 2020. I don't know whether we had that on before, and I'm going to have. I want to turn the camera on Lester. I want to introduce him to you people that don't know him, so that you know who's the producer and the director and the light guy. He does the whole darn thing, and I'm just sitting here talking, and he has just done the whole damn thing. Now, Larry, you tell him what. Lester, your last name is what?
My name is Leszek Drozd. I am a producer of this program with all my pleasure and privilege to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Did you all, okay, you all heard that?
I'm sorry, I have another phone read. I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
It's going to go off in a second.
Yeah, we're on, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, now we talked last week, or last time, like 3 weeks ago? I don't know how long ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but anyway, we talked about a lot of things, and this time I thought we'd start by our beginning with trade and travel motors, our kind of our pet project. You know, I should tell you, you know, I got fired, you know, I told you I was working for Calendar Motors, which was across the corner. You know, if you look at an intersection that's got 4 corners, just kitty corner across, one corner all the way across was where his business was. And when I got fired, I said, oh my gosh. So I saw a sign on a lot, kitty corner from where he was, with a for rent sign. And just had a pile of stones on it, but it had a phone number. So I called the phone number, and the guy said, yeah, he wants to rent out that property. And it was $230 a month, I remember. And I couldn't Jew him down at all. And I said, well, it's only got a pile of rocks on it, you know. He said, yeah, but I won't charge you for the rocks, he said. So I had to start calling on my friends, and that I had known throughout my career over there. And I called the landscaper, and I said, you know, I want you to come and level out this lot, get all these stones all leveled out, and because I'm going to go in business here. And I said, I can't pay you now. You have to wait till I get some money. He says, don't worry. He said, I'll do it for you. So he come in with his Caterpillar and his end loader, and leveled out all the stones, and just got just as nice and flat as you could ever make it. And so now I had a lot. And of course then I had to apply for a dealer license, which I did, and I knew that we would have to have a building. So Florence got on the phone, and she saw an ad in the paper where people would build you a garage, a 2-car garage, in one day, come out in the morning and leave with the garage up. And in one day, they leave at 4 o'clock and the garage would be up. And that sounds like a good deal, okay? So, meanwhile, I'm waiting for the state to come and say, yes, you know, we're going to give you a license. So here comes the state investigator. And he's got the address. He thinks he's got the address, because we have no way of having an address yet. And he says, I'm supposed to be investigating a application here for somebody wanting to open up a used car lot. I said, yeah, that's me. He said, well, he says, he looked around, he says, I don't see any building, I don't see any cars. I said, there's a couple of cars around here. I said, I had bought a couple of cars, and but I said, you're a little early. I said, we don't have a building up yet. And I said, so if you could just close your eyes and visualize. He said, what do you mean? I said, close your eyes and visualize that there's going to be a building over there. And he says, I don't understand. I said, try it. So when he closed his eyes, I slipped him a $20 bill in his head. And he looked at the $20 bill and he said, oh, I see the building, you know, and he okayed my application. Now, we didn't have the building up yet. So then we got the guy come out to put up the building. Well, you remember about that time, anybody who's familiar with Chicago, they were building the expressways. And they were doing the Eisenhower from Chicago. They had to come through a whole neighborhood, you know, and they tore down all these nice buildings. And they had nice doors and they had nice windows that they were selling, you know, after just to raise some money. So I went down there and I bought some windows and doors, and oh man, it was so cheap, you know. So I brought them back, and here comes the builders, the two guys in a truck with a load of lumber. And they said, brother, I said, are you going to put a building up today? He says, yep, we're going to put a building up today. And I said, well, you know, I want you to put my windows in and my doors in. You can take those windows that you were planning on doing back because I'm not going to need them. And I said, I know you're going to plan on a 2-car garage door. I only want 1 garage door because I'm going to have an office on the other side of it. And believe me now, they're just bare ground, okay? So they drilled a hole, they dug a hole, 4 holes, you know, below the frost line, and put in their posts, and they laid their sill down and they started to work. And by golly, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they had the building up with 1 garage door, using my doors, so it didn't look completely like just a garage. And so it looked kind of like an office. And we lived with that all the time. It was just a nice touch. So then we're going to have, I had 1-car garage now, and then this other room. So I built the partition between the garage and the office. And we had, it needed heat, you know. So some guy had just converted his old furnace that was an oil burner he went to gas. And he had this old boiler or old gas stove that worked fine, you know. So I don't know if I bought it or he gave it to me, and we put it up and we ducted it, you know, before we put the floor in, so we had air coming up, and we bought a 275-gallon oil tank and put it out behind the building, and had the guy come and fill it with oil, and we had heat, and of course we had electricity. We had electricity from next door temporarily. There was a gas station. The same doctor that owned this lot owned the gas station. And of course we didn't have any toilet facilities or anything. So I said, he said, well, you buy the gas from him, and I'll see that he gives you water, okay? I said, okay, because I got to have washer to wash cars and stuff. And we bought all our gas, but of course we didn't buy a whole lot of gas. Then he said, well, he thinks he's going to shut it off because he said that it wasn't working for him. I said, well, tell me how much your gas, your water bill went up, you know, and I will pay the difference, you know, and I'll still buy the gas here. Well, he wasn't so sure about that. So I went to see the old Dr. Secor again, and I said, well, you know, I said, he's giving me trouble about the water. And I said, I guess he did. By the way, Dr. Secor loved trees and plants. And he had some trees on that lot that I didn't like, and plants. And I said, well, you know, it's a shame. I said that those trees and those shrubs are going to die because I've been watering them all the time. I had never watered them. And he says, oh, we can't let that happen. He goes down and talks to the guy, and he says, you better not shut off the water to that guy because he needs him to water the plants. So, you know, he turned it back on again. But he didn't care if I had water, but he thought I was watering the plants. And of course, I never watered the plants. You know, but I wanted to kill them because they were in my way. But that's how we really got started, you know, and that was the beginning, and we had the building up. So it was just raw lumber, so I painted it like a checkerboard on the front, you know, big squares, white and black, you know, and so the building inspector comes by, and he says, man, he says, I never saw that building before. I said, well, you probably didn't notice it because I just painted it. Yeah, it could be, he said, because you know, it's got bright colors, you know. Yeah, he said, I guess so. I guess we'll just leave it at that. So now I had the building, and I had my license, and we had our house paid for. So we put the house in hock to raise some cash, and then we found some guys that were in the finance business that would floor plan the cars that we couldn't pay for ourselves. And so, hey, we were in business. And so the first car I sold, because I didn't have a desk or anything yet, the first car I sold, I wrote the sales order on the hood of a car, you know, and he delivered it right out there in the open. And it just went kind of up from there, and then we had to have outside lights, because you know the car business does most of the business after everybody else is not working, and that's the nighttime. So I went to my good friend who is kind of a junk dealer, and he had also selling pipe and stuff, and his name was Jim Gamble. I said, Jim, you know, I need some pipe. I need you know, this 3-inch pipe like you got out there, and I want to cut them in certain lengths. And he said, okay, you know, I sell it by the pound, he said. I said, well, I thought so, but I said, can you put me on the cuff for a while? Because I'm going to have to put up some lights. He said, sure, how long you think? I said, I don't know. Yeah, he said, I trust you, he said. So he gave me all the light poles on the cuff, and then I hired a salesman by then, and his name was Fritz Blazek. Good character, wonderful man. And so he and I dug those poles in, wired them up, you know, and we hung those string lights, you know, where you turn a bulb in, you know, first you put they had 2 prongs on it, and then they would hang on the wires, and you turn a bulb in them, and then you had light. And that's how we had light for our car lot for a long time, you know. And they worked just fine. They worked just fine. Well, then this was still the county, okay? Then it became a town. They incorporated a town called Countryside. And they said we were going to outlaw all our lights. Well, I had those kind of lights, and a couple of other people had them. And so we got together and hired an attorney from downtown Chicago to come out and say, you know, we should have grandfather rights, you know. You can't just condemn a man's lights. You got to give him time. So he scared the city council into saying, okay, we'll back off. But he was a kind of a powerful guy, and he just had to come out one time. and they just run scared. So then we all converted. We went to fluorescent lights. I want to do it anyway, but and we did all that by hand. We did it ourselves. Wired it up. Everything was fine, you know. And but the electricians, now they said that you have to have a licensed electrician come out and work one day. And then he said, you can hire a licensed electrician to come and we had to have more juice now. He said he'll hook you up with the 3-phase lights that you need, 3-phase. I said, okay. So we called the union hall, and they sent out what they call a licensed electrician. And he was a black guy, and he had a brand new tool belt and a pair of brand new pliers hanging in it. And he said he's an electrician, and he's here to work one day. I said, okay, you're an electrician? He said, yep. I said, well, we're hooking up the lights. Okay, we got all the wires strung. And I said, my buddy and I will hook these wires on all these other poles. You do this pole here. He said, okay. So he crawled up there and he was monkeying around and fooled around. He was there all day long. And then when 4 o'clock came, he said, so long. And I said, are you all done, all fixed? Oh yeah, he said, everything's done, everything's done. So we just finished up what we were doing, and then we called an electrician in to hook up our 3-phase. Everything worked except the pole he worked on. So we had to rewire, go up there and fix what he couldn't do, and then we had lights. You know, so it was just all really hard work, you know. And then I got acquainted with my buddy, which is still my buddy, Charlie Atkins, who is a good friend of mine yet today. But he was from Mississippi, kind of a hillbilly guy. He worked for Reynolds and Reynolds, but he and I kind of got along pretty good. And so he helped me with a bunch of this stuff. He helped me with all the stuff that I couldn't do really. He was an expert welder. And so anytime I had to have something fixed, he'd come over and fix it. And we just got along real good. In fact, I just talked to him the other day. And we see each other, you know, every once in a while, but we have contact, but on the phone most all the time. And then, of course, Fritz Blazek, you know, was such a great salesman. Man, and I had a porter that we called Andy Burton. His name was Andrew Burton. He looked just like Joe Louis. He was just as strong as a bull. But, you know, and just the nicest guy in the world, you know. And I used to fix the cars, you know, myself. And the heavy work that I couldn't do under the car, I let him do. And he could carry his transmission in the palm of his hand, like it was just a tray. And he could get it out on the bench, and I could overhaul it, and he'd put it back in. So we did most of our stuff by ourselves, and unless we got something. Oh, I had a friend who had I couldn't do automatic transmissions, but standards I could do, and then clutches I could do. I could grind valves and stuff like that. So, and my friend who said he'd fix any automatic transmission for me for $100, no matter what was wrong with it. I said, okay. So if I got a car with a bad trans, I took it over there, and for $100 he rebuilt it for me, and it worked really good. You know, so just, you know, real, we just started with nothing. And we just kind of built it up from there. And then we were really becoming very popular. You know, people liked us, you know, because we took care of people. and we had a electromotive they were building trains over in LaGrange, and I went over and talked to the guy running the credit union, and I said, would you please, could you think about financing some of these cars that I'm selling, because a lot of them are working for you? And he said, sure. So we got pretty well acquainted, and we always sold good cars, stood behind them, nobody complained. So he said he wouldn't do it for anybody else. He said, you got all our business. Anybody comes in here to finance a car, if he's buying from you, I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. So we got a lot of business from that angle. And we built a real good business. We were selling a lot of cars. And we got specialized in Cadillac limousines. Now that's a big Cadillac with the jump seats, you know, hold 7, 8 people in it like nothing. And we had a big family. You remember those? You remember the Cadillacs? And we used to travel all over the damn country on vacation in these Cadillac limousines. And
people and a dog.
Yeah, people and the dog. Yeah. And one time, a guy comes in to me, and I'm off. He said, "Hey, you never guess what I saw today?" I said, "What do you see?" He said, "I saw a lady driving a big Cadillac limousine with a dog sitting in the back seat." I said, "You just saw my wife." But we traveled all over the country with those limousines, you know. We went to Yellowstone Park, and we went to
Stone.
yeah.
We went up to Glacier.
Yeah, Glacier, and we went to the East Coast. We went to the East Coast one time. And we used to go up home in Minnesota a lot. We just were vagabonds, and the Cadillac had a big trunk, okay, besides being all the people inside. But then we got a real big car top, you know, that we could tie down on the top, a canvas thing that was about this high, and we could pack all our camping gear in that. And we could come into a spot that we were going to, say we'd come into a spot like this, like my backyard, say we're going to stay the night here. Okay, everybody had a job to do. You know, somebody had to put up the tents, somebody had to blow up the mattresses, somebody had to cook the food, and we could do it all in 30 minutes. We'd be sitting down to eat in 30 minutes, a hot meal. Tents up and everything. We had 2 tents, and we just traveled like that. But it was very cheap. Our biggest expense was the gas for the car. But that's how we traveled around the country. But anyway.
Remember, Dad, when we...
What's that?
Remember when we stopped at Grossen? Remember when we stopped?
Oh yeah, we were coming back from
on the way back from New York.
Yeah, from New York. And my wife likes to stop at fancy places, you know. Even if we couldn't afford them, so she said, let's go and stop here for lunch. I said, they'll charge us a fortune. I can't do that. I said, which I want to do it. So she took herself and was it Dawn? Yeah. Went in there.
I was with her.
Yeah. So and the rest of us stayed in the car. So we could probably afford the fancy food for somebody. So they come back, and they had eaten a nice meal, and it was all for free. They had a promotion or something, and they didn't charge anybody anything for the food.
Was that Mackinac Island?
That's that? No.
Grossinger's ran it. I don't know if they called it European style or something. But when you stayed at Grossinger's, all your meals were included, and there was no way for them to make a bill.
Yeah.
Money.
So they just went in there and
They just thought, yeah.
They thought,
treated us like we belonged there.
yeah. we did a lot of crazy things, you know.
It was fabulous. It was white tablecloths. It was waiters
Yeah.
with towels over their arms. It was it was terrific.
It was really a nice place.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And then we went to Mackinac Island, remember?
Yeah.
And we had to take the ferry over there, and there's no cars over there, just horses. And so they have a real fancy hotel there, and we were going to go there to eat. And of course, we looked, I guess, not appropriate for the crowd that was there. So they made us pay for our meal before we got it. Remember that?
They made us what?
Remember, we had to pay for the meal before we got it. Before he ordered, the waiter would take it. We had to pay in advance.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Profile.
I really got
Vagabonds.
mad. I wanted to leave, and your mother said, no, we're going to stay. But we had to pay for it in advance. Needless to say, the guy got no tip.
Yeah, I guess.
But anyway,
Holy cow.
we had some crazy stuff happen to us, But we had some interesting things. But it was a fun time, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it was wonderful. I think we took Sophie on a lot of those trips.
Oh yeah, she was with us most of the time. Yeah. So it was.
I think she was with us when we went to New York. Yeah.
Yeah, there was 8 of us in the car. Yeah.
Yeah, because remember we checked into a hotel and then we went. We didn't unpack or anything. In fact, we didn't even unload the car because we had, it was parked incorrectly. So you checked into a hotel and we were running around upstairs. It was terribly exciting. And then we got back into the car to figure out where to park and stuff. Well, we got in the car and you were driving around looking for a place to park, and you couldn't get there because of all the one-way turns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And finally you said, the heck with this, and we left New York. We never went back.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Yeah, we went. Yeah, we drove to New Jersey to find a place to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. But anyway, that was really the way we lived, pretty good and cheap. And we also did the same thing with our business. We were on the cheap side all the time, and everything we made we just put away.
I think you need to tell them about your first toilet, though.
Oh yeah, I gotta go back to our building back at Trade and Travel. That was Trade and Travel Motors, we called it, and we didn't have a toilet or anything, so it was just me and Fritz that worked there, and Andy, and so we were supposed to use the facilities next door, but a lot of times you didn't want to go that far, so we dug a hole outside of the building, filled it with gravel, and then we put a funnel in the wall, and when we had to pee, we went and peed in the funnel. and we had 2 salesmen by then. Tommy Dumas came to work for us, and he had a little boy they were just training to potty train, and so he happened to be at our place and had to go. So he just took the boy out in the back and let him pee in the funnel, and so that's the only place he would pee. So his mother would have to come driving down like crazy to come in, and I thought, what's wrong? And she said, he won't pee anywhere else but in the funnel. Yeah, that was crazy stuff. But it was all fun. It was all fun and was very, very profitable. And
Why don't you tell a few of the stories you had with your porters, Andrew? You guys.
Oh yeah,
Joker.
Andy. as I told you about Andy, well, he was one of these guys that couldn't leave women alone. And he had a very jealous wife. So he come to work one day. You know, I'd sold him a car, an old Buick, I remember. And he come into work and he smelled like smoke. Terrible. I said, man, you smell like smoke, Andy. Yeah, he said, I know. He said, my car catched on fire. I said, what happened? Well, he said, I was with another woman in the back seat, and my wife catched us. And she set the car on fire. and burned it up, she said. And all that was left on it was the springs, you know, the cushions, all the upholstery was shot. The dashboard was gone, you know, you couldn't even see it. It was all smoked up, you know. And the steering wheel, all was left of it was a little steel ring that they had, you know, the steering wheel uses a little steel ring like that. And then they build it up around with the coating, you know. But it starts with just a steel ring, you know, about a half-inch thick. And so that was all that was left of the steering wheel. But it still would run. It burned the inside of it, didn't burn the working part. And so he drove it. He could still drive it. But it was impossible. It was impossible because we had to finally just junk the car because it stunk so bad. But there were just a lot of things that happened to us, you know. Yeah.
But you played a practical joke on, I think it was Andrew, maybe it was one of your other porters, with the hearse. You remember?
With the hearse?
I think that was over at Calendar Motors.
Oh, was that over Calendar?
Wasn't it, Dad?
Remember?
Yeah.
Were you scared one of your porters?
Oh, yeah, that was when I worked for another dealer. You know, and they're deathly afraid of dead people. Blacks are noted for that. But the undertaker parlor was like across the street from us. And we used to have to service the hearses. And so we would send the porters over to pick up the hearses when they needed service. Well, they didn't like it much, but they finally did, okay? And so one time they were going to go and get one of the hearses for service, and one of our mechanics crawled into the back, laid in the back under a sheet. So when the porter started the thing up to bring it over to our place for service, he kind of rolled over and moaned under the sheet. And the porter looked back and he sees this movement under the sheet, and he took off. Never seen him since. Never came back. Didn't come back for his paycheck or anything. But there, you know, that's just kind of a shame to do that. But that was just some of the things we did.
Well, did you find something a couple blocks away, like a?
What's that?
Did you find something a couple blocks away, like a bucket that you?
Oh yeah. Well, that was when you had a train accident.
Oh, okay.
The train hit a car, and I had one of my porters washing the windows outside, and the train hit the car so hard that the trunk lid flew off the car and landed across the street. And man alive, my porter looked at that and he thought that was the end of the world. And he started to run. And we stopped, we found his bucket and the brush 2 blocks away. That's when he slowed down enough to put down the bucket. And that was all. He never came back to work either. But that wasn't even a ghost, that was just a train wreck. But it really destroyed the car. Yeah. And then from there we went to started our dealership as you know it today, and I told my wife, I said, we got to go out and look at this place. I heard about it. I said, it's a Chevy Olds place. You know, I've always wanted a franchise. And she said, where is it at? I said, Sandwich, Illinois. She said, where in the hell is Sandwich? I said, well, I know where it is, so why don't you just come with me? We'll go and look at it tonight. And I, of course, had to work till 9 o'clock at night. So after 9 o'clock, we started driving out. That was before tollways, freeways. And we started driving on Ogden Avenue, 34, all the way from LaGrange to Sandwich. Oh my, every time we'd come to a town, my wife would say, never, never, never am going to move this far away. I said, well, just hang on, hang on. So we finally come to this trade-in, what is now Gjovik Chevy. And there we found a building, empty building, no lights, no sun. There was a sign, but that's all there was. Gravel all around. And the guy was busted out, you know. He had a drinking problem. And so he only had the dealership, I think, for 3 or 4 years. And so she said, no way am I going to go do this for you. No way am I going to come out, way out here. We lived in Oak Brook. Nowhere are we going to come out here, she said. And she said, and I just kept nagging her and working on her and persuading her. Finally said, okay, she said, I will do it under one condition, that I have a brand new 98 sitting by the door, full of gas, and I have the keys. So I can go back anytime I want, no questions asked. I said, you got a deal. I shook on it. That's a deal. I'll do that for you. So I did. We moved out there, and we bought the place. We rented the place first. And then I got her a 98 the way she liked it, and with full of gas. I gave her the key, parked the car there. It's not for sale. This is your car. Go whenever you want. She never went. She never went once. We just kind of honed in. And
Just because she could, she didn't have to.
that's right. She didn't have to. And we had our home in Oak Brook that we hadn't sold yet, and now we had this other obligation, and you know, we just couldn't go to a third place. We couldn't have a third mortgage. So I took a trailer, you know, a big living trailer, you know, like house trailer, and I took one in trade, sight unseen. But I thought I got it cheap enough, it's got to be okay. So then I went and looked at it. Man, it's a nice big trailer. It's got 3 bedrooms and nice kitchen, and it's really a nice place. So I, you know, where the wash rack is now, and that alcove on the building, we pulled it over with a farm tractor and parked it there, and we lived in that thing for must be 3 years, and we hooked it up to our own septic system and our water system and electric, and we lived in that thing for 3 years. You guys remember it? Mm-hmm. Because you lived there. Mm-hmm. Judy and Jan were gone, and Mark was gone.
Yeah. So
they were in college. Yeah. So you know, we lived there. No rent to pay. I get up in the morning, walk to my office. You know, just the length of the building. But that's how we lived. Then we finally sold the house in Oak Brook and bought the house in Sandwich. And but anyway, did a lot of primitive things. The hard way. We did everything kind of the hard way. And we were somewhat successful, you know. And I guess you might say my wife was the brains and I was the brawn, you know. Yeah, my wife was very smart, and she was just very smart, and a lot of help, a real good partner. Not that I don't have one today, but but she was. We were married 63 and a half years, and she finally passed away. And you know, she wasn't sick. She got MRSA from the nurses that came out. And that's what killed her. Never had a pain in her life, really. And she said she had one wish, that when she died, she'd like to have her family around her. And she don't want nobody, if her disease was terminal, no treatment, no nothing. And that's the way it was. She told the family not to tell me that she was dying, but to not let me know, because I would run every test that was available, try to find out what's wrong. But it was MRSA. And she had trouble with her legs swelling, and they used to come out and dress her legs, and that's where she got the MRSA. And you know, she was in the hospital for 3 days, and I got a bill for $275,000 for those 3 days. And she could just well stay at home. But the hospitals know how to charge, especially when they know they can probably get it, you know. But anyway, that's how it was. Let's take a little break. Ready? Okay. Yeah. When our folks came from Norway, and our grandparents came from Norway, they first settled in Iowa. Yeah. They first settled in Iowa. Okay, you got to be quiet. Okay, because there was, you know, but they thought, man, expensive, you know, but everybody had to pay. Everybody had to, you know, pay. It was really expensive, but it was money making. But they heard about this free land in northern Minnesota, what they called homesteading, and it was free land. All you had to do is come up there and say, I'll claim this and I'll claim that, you know. And it was terrible land. You know, it was all trees, and there was no equipment like we have today. It was just hand axe and pickaxe to get the stumps out of the ground. We could saw down the trees, all right, and we'd make logs out of them and lumber, but boy, bringing out those stumps so we could start using as a field, I'll never forget that. My grandpa and I used to work like slaves on that. And they'd be big, trees would be this big around, you know. And then they had roots all over the place. Now they'd go in there with a dozer and pull them out of the ground like nothing.
You had a lot of rocks too, didn't you?
What's that?
Did you have a lot of rocks too?
No, not on this land. There was no rocks there. But we had rocks on the other land, but we didn't have to. That wasn't free land. But the free land was poor land. But we had a a lot of work to get a field so you could work the land and start farming it. It was all done with horses. No tractors. It was just horsepower and manpower. Yep. And then we had my dad had a farm, an 80-acre farm that was, a mile long, and then if you took a section of land, which is 640 acres, if you divide it in four, you got 160 acres in each one. Well, we had 80 acres. That'd be like a quarter divided in half, but it was a mile long. It was narrow, but a mile long. And we had peat fires. I don't know if you heard about that or not, where peat would burn, for years. It would smoke and smolder. You couldn't put the fire out because it was just there. It was just like a lighter. It just the peat was fuel, and it would just simmer night and day. And we had one of those fields, big field, and so the peat was burning off, and so when the peat was burned off, when it finally quit burning, it had islands standing around, where it didn't burn, here and there. So you still couldn't farm it very well. And my dad was working road construction, and they were doing a job pretty close to Strathcona, the town where we used to go. And so he made arrangements with his boss that he could take his Caterpillar, big Caterpillar, and a grader out there to level out these islands. So I don't know if you remember, if anybody is familiar with big Caterpillars back in those days. They had a pony motor on it, that you would start you'd start with a hand crank, like we would do a garden tractor. Well, its big job was to start the big engine. So we'd start the pony motor, and then you would, with levers, and slowly engage the big engine so it would start turning. When it would be turning about this fast, you'd open the throttle. And we used to put a can on the exhaust pipe, and it would shoot that can up in the air so high you couldn't even see it on the first fire. And so when you hit that, open that throttle, wham, and it was running. And then you had to stop the pony motor, because that was still running too. So you stop the pony motor. Now you got a Caterpillar that's running on the big engine. And it was a D7 Caterpillar, I'll never forget it. Man, it was a big machine. And everybody went to church. My dad said, "You can't go to church today. You're going to go with me. We're going to take the Caterpillar, and we're going to go out there and level out all those islands." Okay. So, man, I'm excited, and my dad started it up because I didn't know how to do it. And so when you got them started, you let them run all day because they didn't take much fuel sitting and idling. So we hooked a grader behind it, and it was 6.5 miles to where our field was. And now I'm driving this great big Caterpillar. Never done it before. It's got brakes left and right and clutches left and right. and that's how you steered it. You pulled the clutch, and if that didn't do enough, you hit the brake, bam, and come right around, see? So they were really called cats because they could crawl like cats. And so I drove the big Caterpillar out to the field, and my dad came in the car, and then we went out in that field and knocked down those islands. Well, I didn't think we were going to make it because they're pretty soft out there. He said, don't worry about it. He said, these cats will go anywhere. And we didn't have a bit of problem. We knocked that down and made them.
Oh, you must have lost it.
Hi, Jan. Yeah, we're working right now. We're starting a little bit right now. But we're kind of reminiscing on another story. So we better call, somebody better call Mark. But anyway, get Keegan.
Can you get Mark on?
But anyway, we knocked down all those islands and made a real nice field. You know, man, the ashes were the richest soil you'd ever seen in your life.
The richest soil.
Oh my God, you could race.
All right, step back.
Unbelievable. Are you there, Mark?
I sure am. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and then
I don't understand what you just said. Did you find something, Mark?
yeah.
No, I'm here.
Okay. So there was the richest soil you could ever find. It was just like it would grow anything, and we would grow barley. That the barley would be so thick and so heavy, it couldn't stand on its own. It would lay down because the heads got so heavy that the stalks couldn't hold them. So we had to have special equipment to go in and harvest them, to kind of pull them up. But oh my God, you never saw grain like that in my life. And it was just an amazing thing. Well, now we get that all leveled out and got the field nice and clean. I got to take the tractor back.